Hi, I'm Jay Baer, and you're listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I am a keynote speaker, a strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. Speed has always been important to customers and a competitive advantage for some businesses. Speed, as today's guest points out, has been important ever since the first Olympic race in 776 BC, which was a contest of speed. But we constantly see how many companies are just too slow, while others are often way too fast. But speed isn't just about how fast you are. It has a big part of the trust that's built into relationships with your customers. So how do you exceed customers' need for speed? As a speaker, one of my favorite events is the National Speakers Association's yearly Influence Conference. I had the pleasure of meeting up with a friend who appeared all the way back on episode 99. That seems so long ago because the podcast was in black and white then, believe that or not. But I was lucky enough to meet and discuss his great new mini book. And yes, it's tiny, different, and makes great points in a super quick read. Jay Baer is the author of The Time to Win, How to Exceed Customers' Need for Speed, and 6 other best-selling books. The founder of 6 multi-million-dollar companies, an inductee into the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame, a business growth researcher, an advisor, and even a tequila influencer. And on this episode, we will discuss a super quick read, speed, the relationship between responsiveness and revenue, getting enchiladas too fast, measuring the speed that works for your audience, guided audits, figuring out the right now, speed to lead, my emergency plumbing issues and how that factors into solving problems quickly, a fast pass, the fastest shark, Flash vs. Superman, fast car movies, the #1 popcorn state, a controversial fried food, and a lot more. So let's tune into a Time to Win author with a Time to Swim shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective.
Jay Baer, thank you for coming back about 300 episodes later to A Shark's Perspective. I wanted to talk, last time we talked about a couple of alpacas and this big, massive, sold a couple 100 million copies.
Yeah, well, it did okay.
It did okay with talk triggers. But we've spoken before, and I'm a big fan of your work. But you're talking about A Time to Win with really. We've talked on another show about this, but you made a point in one of your social posts about if you're going to write a book about speed, it should be a quick read.
Yeah.
And this is the massive book.
This is the actual book. Yeah, people say, Jay, how come the book's so small? What are you compensating for? And I say nothing. It's, I just felt like the whole point of this book is to explain to businesses the relationship between responsiveness and revenue, and that you have to increase the priority of speed in your organization because your customers already have. They have already said that speed is more important to them than ever before. In fact, in the research I did for the book, we found that 2/3 of customers say that speed is as important as price. And so it seemed really ironic, Shark, to say, let me make you read a 7-hour business book about speed. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. So I'm like, all right, let's just give you the core parts of the book. You can read it in an hour or so, but several people have gotten early copies of it, and they say there's as much value in it as a full-length business book, and that's exactly what I was shooting for, right? So it's Kindle version will be out in a couple days, and then we're going to sell the soft cover on Amazon in sets of 3. So there's 3 books in a little slipcase, so you get 3 books for $20. The idea is that you keep one, you give one to one of your friends in the business community, and you keep one, hold one back for when somebody, your pool guy, your air conditioning guy, the restaurant isn't fast enough, and you just kind of slowly, with your credit card, you slip the book in there. That's what you keep the 3rd one for.
Well, with several of your books, I think with Utility, and I know with Talk Triggers, I bought them, and then I got one, you'd autograph one and got a different one, and so I've passed it on.
The full collection.
So I have done this, and I can't wait for this. One of the great comments you talked about though is getting sometimes your enchiladas too fast.
Yeah.
Have you given this to any Mexican restaurants?
Oh, that's a great question. Not yet, but yeah, it is one of the stories that we talk about in this book and in the presentation version of this topic.
Tell that story. I jumped in knowing it.
No, it's fine. It's I live in Indiana, which is not home of a perfect Mexican food anyway. But I went to a Mexican restaurant anyway, ordered enchiladas, and they brought me the enchiladas in like 90 seconds. And initially I was like, wow, that's incredible. And then I was like, wait a second, how do they make enchiladas that fast? Do they have like an enchilada machine, or is there some kind of trickery going on here? It was so fast that I began to distrust the veracity of the enchiladas. And that's true in all businesses. Largely, the advice in this book, and it's all based on comprehensive research, largely the advice is that you should be faster than you are today. But there is a scenario where you can be too fast. If you are too fast, it actually reduces trust. I'll give you another example. Many folks out there have either used or have on their website some kind of a chat bot, right? Some kind of a chat technology. Drift, which is one of the biggest providers of that kind of software in the world, intentionally plugs in like a 3-second delay into the system. Because if you as a consumer ask a question, and if it comes back instantaneously, which of course it can literally answer you in a nanosecond. But if it does that, if it answers you like that, you're like, wait a second, that's got to be a robot, that's got to be AI. And literally your trust in the answer goes down. So they artificially create a pause a little bit slower, so they're like, oh, okay, this is a thought out robot answer, which is kind of hilarious, but it's all just brain science, right? So speed at all costs actually costs your business. What you want is the perfect amount of elapsed time, not too fast, not too slow. And in the book, we call that the right now, the perfect amount of time.
So what do you think it causes the most when it is too fast? And it's a wonderful example about the chatbot, because and I saw him in the hall last night, David Horsheimer, you know, your mastermind group. It eliminates a lot of trust.
Yeah. That's it.
Very quickly. But what other things do you think that too fast is killing? Which is weird, because we're talking about the need for speed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting,
the need for
right?
too much
like
is really kind of...
There's like a bell curve there, right? Too slow is bad, too fast is bad. Trust is the biggest problem when you're too fast. In some scenarios, it also can be interpreted by consumers as sort of pushy and brusque, especially in larger ticket purchases, when consumers would prefer to have a little more time to kind of mull it over. If the process is set up, so it's like, you know, and today you get an email reminder, and tomorrow you get another email reminder, and where's your contract, and how about that first payment, right? It feels like you're being railroaded a little bit, and that can also cause some negative customer attitudes.
So how does a customer in any line of business figure out the speed that works for their customers, their audience?
So you really have to measure this. It's the first piece of the Time to Win framework, which is all in the book. The first piece of the framework is to perform what we call a got it audit. A got it audit means how long does it take your customers to get it, to get whatever they need, to get information, to get a price, to get a delivery, to pay a bill, to get help, to get an answer. How long does it take them to get it? And that sounds super obvious, doesn't it? But the problem is, when I talk to businesses about this, I say, well, how long does it take your customers to get delivery? What they tell me is, well, Jay, usually it takes 3 days, and sometimes it's 4. If it's over a weekend, it could be 5. But if everything goes perfectly, it could be 2. And I'm like, wait a second. This is not math. This is a collection of stories. And so you first of all have to figure those things out in your business, which again sounds obvious, but it is astonishing how few businesses actually know that kind of number, right? Like they know the median, they know the mean, they know the average, the whole thing. For all these different key inflection points, they just don't know. No one's ever asked them before. And you can't figure out the right now. You can't dial in the optimum amount of speed until you know what you're doing today. And most businesses simply don't. They really don't. They think they do, but they don't actually.
Well, I really got excited about this book. I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and a lot of what I focus on is lead generation.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about speed to lead. And if somebody fills out a form or makes a call, you got to be Johnny on the spot and answer it right now, because that's what they want.
Half of all customers will hire whomever contacts them first, regardless of price.
Such a big, this is like the speech for call centers all the time. But what's interesting though is I sometimes worry with this, and that's why I love the example about the chatbot is, you know, we think about it with content marketing, where we know each other originally from. There is, it would be scary if everybody just thought if I set the clock and the bad advice is you got to respond to everything fast.
Yeah.
Then everybody goes and replicates that. They don't measure it with their audience.
It's an arms race.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you fill out a lead form, and this has happened to me a number of times, especially for B2B software. You fill out a lead form, I'm interested in a demo for whatever. And then somebody calls your phone 10 seconds later. You're like, okay, this is a little too aggressive.
Yeah.
And that's where this idea of the right now really comes into play. It's not instantaneous, but you don't want to wait too long, because then Maybe they're like, oh, they don't care about my business, or early bird gets the worm. And so that's why you really do have to test this and sort of dial in, like, okay, is it 5 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? Is it 2 hours? I don't know the answer, right? People ask me all the time, what's the right now for my business? I don't know. But I know how you can find out, and that's what's in the book.
Well, there's so much around search intent that I love about this, because I was just telling you a story, what happened to me with a plumbing problem while we're here 1,000 miles away from home. And a week ago had a garage issue. And I ended up going to work with the one who answered the phone first.
Of course.
When I had that problem, and I probably overpaid.
Of course.
But if you're if customers want to fix something or need to fix something, they need it done quickly at their
We
pleasure.
interpret speed as caring. We interpret speed as caring. When people are faster, not too fast, as we talked about a second ago, but when they are sufficiently fast, what we believe that means is that they care about us, our business, and our well-being more. Is that true? I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's true. That's how we interpret it as human beings in terms of brain science. And that's why, as an organization, it's better to set up your system so that you can consistently be first. I'm not saying that's easy. I know that it can be difficult. People have labor challenges and new people on the staff and, all these things. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's worth it. The data is very, very clear in this book that if you are faster, you will gain more customers. And if you are faster, you will keep more customers. It's literally a double dip. So I'm telling you that this is worth the investment necessary.
Did the data take into account how services evolved, good or bad, post-pandemic?
Not how
where we were
service
before
has evolved, but how customer satisfaction has evolved. And here's the thing it's kind of disheartening if somebody who spent a lot of his career doing customer service and customer experience work. The ACSI, the American Customer Service Index, measures customer satisfaction of the totality of the U.S. economy. So every industry, financial services, cable companies, car companies, restaurants, all of it, right? The ACSI is the lowest it's been right now in like 20 years. So despite the literally billions of dollars we spent on customer experience initiatives, customers are less happy than ever. And I will tell you, one of the reasons that's true is that customer expectations around speed have gone up and businesses' actual responsiveness has stayed the same. There's a growing gap between what customers think you should be doing in terms of speed and what you are doing. And that's the gap that we're trying to close with this book.
Well, I know you speak to all kinds of industries, but you've done a lot in particular with a client that I used to work heavily with in financial services, a Fortune 50. When you think about it from a financial services perspective, at least from the leaders you meet with and speak to, you're on like big city, 20-something city tour. What's their response back?
Exactly.
Because with a behemoth, it's so hard to close the gap with speed.
So I'm working with this financial services company on this national tour, and every week we have a different city, and they invite hundreds of their clients, small, medium-sized business clients, to the room. And it's a Noah's Ark of industries. Like every kind of business is in the room, and they're all sort of really like, whoa, Jay's right, we got to get serious about speed. But then every single time, the people from the financial services company come up to me afterwards, whoever the local representatives are, and is like, some of the things that you mentioned, we should maybe think about doing some of those ourselves, right? Because somebody calls in, they need a loan, they need a quote, they got a question, right? I mean, look, banking and any really financial services is not really easy to differentiate at product or price, right? So all you're really differentiating on is brand and service.
Yeah. Doubletree cookie doesn't work.
It doesn't. I mean, look, if we interpret speed as caring, you would want your financial services provider to care about you and your money. So yeah, every single time, the people from the company are like, yeah, is there a chance we could get a book for all the people at our company? It's like that kind of thing, yeah.
So they certainly got it on it, but talk about what a fast pass is.
This is probably my favorite one in terms of making revenue quickly.
They got to read all the way to the end of this long
That's why I did it. Yeah, I think at least one cocktail worth. Fast pass is the idea that if you give customers the opportunity to not wait, you can charge them more. The data show that 1 in 4 customers will pay as much as 50% more to not wait. So not all of your customers are going to want this, but those who do want it will want it desperately. Maybe they're late, they forgot, they're behind the curve, whatever, but you say, okay, would you like to spend a little bit extra to do this right now, to jump the line essentially? And there's a lot of fast passes in our world now, more and more all the time. Actually, TSA Free is a fast pass. Clear is a fast pass. ATMs are a fast pass. Here, we're in Orlando right now. Disney has one. It used to be called Fast Pass. Actually, I think it's called Lightning Lane now. They changed the name. Same idea, right? You pay more, you don't have to wait. Every business can do this. One of the people who came to one of the early events for this owns a fancy pen store in New Jersey, right? So like really expensive pens. So most of their customers are getting business gifts for their boss or whatever, or maybe for their husband. And the guy who owns the store told me, he's like, invariably people like leave it till last minute, right? They're like, oh, forgot it's my boss's birthday. A pen. A pen's a great gift. We'll get him a pen. And so he's constantly having to FedEx people pens.
Sure.
And I said, hey man, are you charging extra for this like immediate pen selection and shipping service? He's like, no, it's just kind of what we do. We charge them the FedEx fee, but we don't actually upcharge them for the service. I'm like, fast pass, right? Because if you're like, business gift, forgot my boss's birthday, you could charge them 20% more and almost nobody would say anything about it. And it's free money. It's just free money.
So I love the Disney example, and I'll tell you, this starts to worry me. This thing should catch fire because it's a fantastic point. And again, if everybody reads this and goes and tries to implement this, what worries me a little
Is that
bit.
everybody have a fast pass?
Well, know that everybody will try to charge more.
Yes.
To make their crappy, slow service faster.
Yeah.
And although we know a few examples of it, we pay for it with Prime, but there's a lot baked into Amazon for doing that.
It's not just speed, it's
But
accessibility.
if everybody took this on,
But you think about
surcharge.
you've got a plumbing issue right now at home. Emergency plumbers charging more will come right now.
True.
I mean, that's a business that's been around since plumbing.
Remind me.
So it, there is precedent for it, and I think partially the issue is that business owners haven't thought that unless they're in like an emergency plumber situation, it's like, well, of course they'll pay more. It's an emergency. That's not really something that their customers want, and the data is very clear on this. 25% of customers, no matter what business you're in, are like, I don't want to wait, because we interpret speed as caring. People care about time more than ever, and if they're willing to pay for that, you should let them.
Sure. How long did it take you to write this?
Not as long.
John Gordon talked about the energy bus yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think he said I think he told me it was 36,000 words. It took him 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Seth Godin's written a couple that were like a week and a half.
Yeah. Most of my books take 6 months because they're meticulously researched, as is this one, but it's just a different format. This one, because I was starting the keynotes, I had the speech done. So once I had the speech done, it was a little easier to write the book. It's basically the speech, but with more examples and expanded, right? So a couple weeks,
Okay. All right, so it's that time where we get to the show. I asked you your favorite shark last time, but I'm going to ask you a trivia question. You know what the fastest shark is?
The fastest shark.
You can weave this into your presentations and credit me for it.
Well, there's a lot. I don't know the answer to this. There's a lot of ways to think about this.
4 letters, starts with an M.
Mako shark?
Bingo.
Yeah, there you go.
Very fast. I've only seen a few in the ocean. And, you're looking quickly. And
so sort of medium size. So it's not about the biggest or the smallest.
They're
just the most athletic.
All right, so we're getting that special time of the show. We're asking you the 5 most ridiculous or important questions, whichever way you interpret it. Who wins in a speed contest, Flash or Superman? It was a question unanswered at the end of the mediocre Justice League.
I always feel like in that kind of competition, Superman is gonna win because can do more stuff, right? Yeah. Can tilt the playing field, take Earth off its axis, can do things that Flash is just fast. Superman's fast and a bunch of other stuff, so I'm going to say Superman.
All right, number 2. Fast and Furious movies or Gone in 60 Seconds. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I think Gone in 60 Seconds is actually a more interesting action movie, but the characters in Fast and Furious are better.
Well, I'd be glad I didn't bring up Steve McQueen movies.
Right.
Luckily,
Bullet,
yeah. I mean, I brought up a Terminator movie to somebody who was born in the 80s, and they looked like it was crazy. All right, number 3. So we're talking about Mexican restaurants earlier. Tacos or enchiladas?
Tacos.
Yeah. So.
Similar to the answer I gave you a few years ago. There's no such thing as a bad taco. It's either a good taco or a great taco. I've had lots of bad enchiladas.
Okay, very good. All right, number 4. This popcorn question, because you come from Indiana, and there's a lot of corn there.
That's one of our things. And popcorn in particular is the number 1 popcorn state.
I wouldn't doubt it. So popcorn, would you rather make your own fresh or do it in a microwave faster?
Well,
we have a lot of movie nights back home, and
so I'm going to tell you. Okay, there's a hybrid answer that I really support. It's a company called Opopop, OPOPOP, and it's really high quality popcorn, great flavors, and they send you a special fold down kind of rubber bowl, so it goes in the microwave, but it tastes like you did it yourself, and the flavors are great, and it's direct to consumer e-commerce. Huge fan of that brand. I get it all the time. Opopop, OPOPOP.
Okay, I'm going to find that.
Yeah, check it out. You'll like it.
Because the fresher Air Pop stuff takes like a half hour.
I can't do that.
With a hair dryer that spins around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm when I was a kid, Jiffy Pop.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing,
oh, yeah.
I'm not doing that.
All right, number 5, and again, I credit you with the, if not the greatest answer, I don't know what it is on biscuits or cornbread, but change this a little bit. Fried catfish or fried chicken?
Oh, fried catfish. For sure. In fact, I had a house on a lake in Indiana until recently. We sold it last fall. But there's the lakeside restaurant is known for their famous catfish. So I've also probably eaten more fried catfish than fried chicken in my overall life. I think catfish is, this is probably going to be a controversial answer, but that's okay.
Very controversial.
I think catfish is the most underrated of the fishes
in terms
of eating it. And a lot of people are like, oh, catfish, bottom feed or whatever. Man, it's delicious if you do it right. I'm going to go fried catfish.
Look, I grew up for my life in Arkansas. It's
the
catfish capital of the world. So
fried chicken can also be a little overrated.
Absolutely. I just wish there was 1 or 2 fried catfish restaurants. You got KFC and Bojangles and Popeyes. As long as we need one.
Long John Silver. So they haven't had catfish?
No, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
All right. So where do people get a copy of this book?
Okay, Amazon. The Kindle version releases any day. And then the hardcover will be on Amazon in the 3-packs for sale, $20 or so. Amazon Prime included, first week of August.
And they got to get it now because it's going fast.
Well, we actually didn't print that many, so it's going to sell out. So if you want one, and I hope you do, you're going to love it. I would get one. I would pre-order soon because it's going to gone.
Awesome, Jay. It's an honor. Thank you again.
Appreciate it, buddy.
On a Shark Perspective.
Always a pleasure.
So there was my conversation with Jay Baer, the author of The Time to Win, How to Exceed Customers' Need for Speed, and 6 other best-selling business books, the founder of 6 multi-million-dollar companies, an inductee into the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame, a business growth researcher, an advisor, and even a tequila influencer. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, when you think of speed, you should be faster, but not too fast. I loved his example of those pesky chatbots being too fast on a website, or how the enchiladas that get served so quickly you just know something's not right. Speed at all costs costs your business, and you must find the perfect amount of time that fits your audience, because time can often be measured not just by seconds and minutes, but by trust. And to that end, even a speedy read like Jay's 60-something page mini book can pack a speedy punch. If you can read a book this short and learn to get your business moving more quickly, then speed of knowledge is now in your favor too. Second, speed is so crucial in lead generation. Smart lead gen folks know that call centers and sales reps have to respond quickly to a potential customer filling out a form. What happens too often, though, is either they're too slow or the business goes into fast attack mode with texts and emails and calls, and then you never want to have anything to do with them again. Be first, but don't run over your customers in the process. Third, love it when he said that we interpret speed as caring. That's so true. His research showed that if you give customers the opportunity to not wait, you often can charge them more. 1 in 4 customers will pay as much as 50% to receive a product or service faster. I had a plumbing issue recently when I was on the road. I paid more for the plumber who got there quickly when I needed it. Another example is if you're ordering something from one retailer versus another, it often comes down to who can get it to you more quickly. Amazon versus everyone else who takes 10 business days to ship. The hare beats the tortoise in any of those situations. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@sharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. Now, you've got more time after this short show to do things a little faster. It's your time to win now, so please join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.